Let's change the camera quickly. Okay, so here today we're going to be doing 2-5, which is solving one-step equations. Solving, that means it has an equal sign. When we solve, it has an equal sign. All right, so here we go. The first step is you always locate the variable, and then you determine the operation tied to it, or you may hear me talk about connected. How is it connected to a variable? You might hear me ask that question. Use the inverse operation, okay, which means the opposite operation on both sides. Got to be both sides of the equal sign to solve. I refer to that as keep the ship balanced. Keep ship balanced. Because if you put a bunch of weight on one side, the ship is going to teeter. It's going to angle, which means it's going to sink. If you keep it balanced, it's not going to sink. All right. And then you check your solution. To check the solution, plug answer into equation. So there's really no reason to miss any equation problems because you can check to make sure that it's correct. All right, now some inverse operations. What the actual inverse operations are. If you are doing addition, to undo, you'll hear me say that a lot. Undo addition, you would do subtraction, and vice versa. If you want to undo subtraction, you do addition. And the other operation is multiplication. If you want to undo multiplication, the inverse operation is division. So then you would do, if you're doing division, to undo the division, you would do multiplication. All right. Some terminology, some ways that I kind of talk about things, okay? Step 1, draw equation wall. So if I'm looking at number 1, the wall goes where the equal sign is. So I draw the equation wall. Step 2, remember you must do opposite to hop over equation wall. Just kind of a little thought process to think about what you're doing. All right, let's work number 1. All right, if I look at it, I ask, how is the 7 connected to, or what operation is tied to the variable? First off, actually, this is my variable. Okay, we drew my equation wall. And now, how are these two connected? What operation connects them? Addition, so I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And then we follow integer rules. So step 3 here is going to be follow integer rules. Follow integer rules for simplifying. All right, so here we go. So when I have a +7 and a -7, this side equals 0. I like to put the 0 over this, so therefore I know it goes away. And then I bring the x down. So now I have x, that's all that's left on this side, equals, now I'm doing -1 and -7. It's really -1 plus -7, or I just look at it and realize they're both negative. So I'm doing teamwork. So my answer is going to be -8. Now we're going to check it to make sure that it's correct. And I plug it back in. So I'm going to have -8. Hopefully this gets darker. -8 plus 7 equals -1. So now I simplify. -8 plus 7 is -1 equals -1. This is a true statement. So therefore, my answer is x equals -8. This is correct. All right, next problem. Looking at number 2. Again, draw the equation wall, and I ask, what operation ties the variable to the number that's on the same side of the equal sign? Well, that's subtraction. How do I undo subtraction? The inverse operation is addition, so I'm going to add 11 to both sides. -11, and remember, so that's a -11 plus 11, that's going to equal 0. Bring down the m, so I have m equals -9 plus 11, that's battle. So for battle, I subtract. Who's winning this? The positives. So I end up with an answer of 2, because I'm technically doing 11 minus 9, which gives me 2. And now I need to check this. So to check it, I plug it in. So I'm going to have 2 minus 11 equals -9. That's going to be battle, and the negatives win. So I get a -9 equals -9. This is true. So this is my correct answer. Okay, for the essence of time, I'm not going to check anymore. We're just going to work some problems. Okay. If I'm looking at number 3, not right now, I'm making a video. Okay, so therefore, put my equation wall, and I'm solving for h. How is the 14 connected to the h? It's adding. But what I'm trying to do is make it equal 0. So what do I have to do to 14 to make it equal 0? I'm going to subtract 14, or I'm going to add a -14. So I'm going to have what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side, because we have to keep it balanced. This zeroes out, bring down the h. And now I follow my integer rules. I'm doing battle or teamwork. I'm doing battle, which means I subtract. And in this situation, the negatives win. So therefore, I'm doing 14 minus 9, which gives me 5. The negatives win, so my answer is -5. Next, number 4. Again, draw my equation wall, circle my variable. What do I have to do? How is it connected? It's adding, but that's a -15. I want to know, what do I have to do to make this -15 get to 0? I have to add 15. I do the opposite. It's a -15, so I'm going to add 15 to both sides. This equals 0. Bring down my w, and I have w equals 29. Remember, when it's adding or subtracting, the goal is to get it to equal 0. Next example. 5. Equation wall. Here's my variable. How are the letter and the number connected? By subtraction. To undo that subtraction, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Bring down my k. -8 plus 8 equals 0. So I now have k equals, now -21 plus 8, they're doing battle. So I subtract, and these are the negatives going to win. So I'm actually doing 21 minus 8. Notice I'm doing my calculations off to the side. It is not in my steps of work. You have to have separation between the two so they don't get confusing and everything gets lost in your work. If you need to do calculations on a separate sheet of paper, then do so. So we have 21 minus 8, and I can't think at the moment, 13, because you have to borrow. So we have a -13 as our answer. Okay, last addition or subtraction. Draw my equation wall. There's my V. Remember, the ultimate goal here is to get this number to the other side. What do I have to do to get it to the other side? Well, I'm looking here. What do I have to do to make this equal 0? -4. What does -4 have to do to get back to 0? We have to add 4 to both sides. When I do this, that's equals 0. Bring down the V. -1 plus 4, that's battle. Subtract. And it's a positive. So we have a +3 as the answer. That's addition and subtraction. Now we're moving on to multiplication and division. All right. So when I'm looking at this, again, we still draw the equation wall. How are the two connected? What operation is tied to it? When they're right next door to each other, when things are right next door to each other, there's no symbol in between. It's understood to be multiplication. So since I'm multiplying, I'm going to divide by 4. Okay, so we're going to add a little comment right here. Show division by fraction bar only. You're going to show division by this fraction bar. Because when I do this, what is 4 divided by 4? That equals 1, which means I would have 1a. But I don't have to write the 1 because it's understood to be there. So we write just a equals. Now what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I divide by 4 on the other side. And now these are different signs. So it's negative. So I have a -6. Now, if I'm checking this, you plug it in, and I'm going to have 4 times -6 equals to -24. This is just plugging into the equation. Now it works. So we have -24 equals -24. This is true. So therefore, this is a correct answer. All right, next problem. Still, look, what's connected to the variable? How are they connected? By multiplication. Oh, my equation wall. So I'm going to divide by -7 on both sides. Yes, you have to remember to divide by the negative. Remember to divide by the negative sign. Okay, so now the -7 divided by -7, that equals 1. So I'm going to have P equals -56 divided by -7 is 8. And here we go. And yes, you would continue to check just for the essence of time so the video is not extremely long and I can get through multiple examples. I'm not going to check. All right, here we go. Now we're going to look at division. If it's dividing. Okay, so if I'm dividing, the inverse operation is multiplication. Remember, I'm still looking to try to get the end, so I'm asking how are these two connected? What operation is it tied to? It's tied by division, so that means I have to multiply by, it might be easier if you show multiplication with the in small parentheses. So we're going to show multiplication by multiplying by 5 on both sides. Okay. When you multiply by 5, you're multiplying by it in the numerator. So now it gets to where it's looking like 5n over 5, which is just like we've been doing. So I do 5 divided by 5, which cancels out. And I have n equals 45. Next example, draw my dividing line. I'm trying to get the r by itself. How are these two connected? The operation tying them together is division. It's division by a -8. That means I have to multiply by a -8 to both sides. And the multiplication is shown by the parentheses. These -8s, because Negative 8 divided by negative 8 equals 1, so that cancels out. Now I have the r here equals negative 8 times 2 is a negative 16. There's my answer. Now to check this, if we're checking this one, since I checked the multiplication, I'll check one of these. So I'm going to have 2 equals negative 16 divided by negative 8. Well, these are the same sign. It's a negative divided by a negative, so it's going to become a positive 2 equals 2. This is true, so therefore this is correct answer. All right, now they throw us a little bit of a curveball when we're looking right here. Right now, the number that's understood to be written here is a 1, so we can think about this as being negative 1k equals 7. And I work it as such. So I'm going to now divide by negative 1 to both sides. This divides out. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 gives me a positive k. Oh, I forgot my equation wall. Shame on me, Wilson. 7 divided by negative 1 equals negative 7. So all it really did was just change the sign. But there's my answer. Okay, last one. Draw the equation wall. How are they connected? By division. So I'm going to multiply by negative 6 on both sides. Follow my integer rules. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 gives me a positive x. Negative 12 divided by, not divided by, multiplied by negative 12 times negative 6 is going to give me a positive 72. Your assignment is to finish these and then check with the answer key. Come show me this page once it's finished, and then you work on the classwork homework. Have a great day. And remember, make sure that you show all of your steps.